One fan base, one city, one team brings us all together. The Cleveland Browns. If you're a Browns fan, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Down with the Browns. Yeah, buddy. Welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns, baby. We're live before game day. Look at Manny out there throwing dots to himself.
I'm trying
Just
to
dotting
see,
himself
I'm
up
trying
out
to,
there.
Dave, I'm trying to see Joe Flacco drop back like this. Put it like this.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that, man.
I'm trying to see it. Oh.
I don't know who too many guys are going to be fired up in their parking lot throwing footballs like Manny Maxwell.
No kidding. He's probably trying to find it now.
Let's go.
Yeah. Big playoff day.
Heck yeah. Pretty pumped, man. Pretty pumped. Looks like we've got some players active. Looks like Denzel Ward is active. Juwan Thornhill is active. So that's going to be huge. On the other side of today's game, Will Anderson and Grenard are active both, but they are on the questionable side, so they probably won't be 100%, but they are playing in today's game.
Yeah, interesting that both injuries are ankles too for those high motor pass rushers too. So let's see if that doesn't affect their snaps today.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very, very true. But on the bad side, Grant Delpit is out. So he is not playing, which that was already commonly known information. So I feel like Cleveland's already prepared with him not in the roster.
Yeah, I was disappointed, dude. I thought they were activating him to pull a Delpit's going to play on us this week, but apparently not.
Yeah.
I thought so too. That last minute, that last minute update from IR is just unfortunate. I would have loved to have that safety help. But again, we're going to have to create pressure with our front four, and I think that's something that we're able to do.
Yeah.
On this Texans again, the Texans have not played a defense like our defense in a while, and when they have, CJ Stroud has not looked great.
He has struggled against good defenses. Yes,
he has struggled versus good defenses, man, and so we aren't exactly the Indianapolis Colts now. The Colts put a lot of points up on this defense. That's true, but we put a lot of points up on them. So it's kind of like, I don't know. And there's got to be a confidence boost, right? I mean, we really put it on the Texans in Houston. Now, it was without C.J. Stroud. That's true. That is true. And they're a different football team with C.J. Stroud. But don't you think, does it give you some confidence, Jake, that we already kind of put a beating down on them? I just want to know your point and Dave's point, too, kind of what you think about that.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the majority of their defense is still there from the last game, with the exception of Will Anderson. So Will Anderson will make a difference on the defensive side, somewhat of a difference, if you will. No, in the sense that, of course, they did not have C.J. Stroud, and that will be a difference maker in their offensive production.
Yep.
Of course, they only scored 7 points on us until the starters went out. But again, we had some defensive players out in that game. I don't think Denzel Ward played in that game. He is playing today. I don't know that Juwan Thornhill was in that game. He's playing today. So, I mean, it's an equalizer, but overall, I am very confident. My only concern is going to be execution. Are they going to give the same execution that they've been doing all season? They have had a little bit of a break. So are they going to come out from that break and just wipe the floor clean, or are they going to look a little bit rusty and just kind of have a slow start?
Yep. Dave, what do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think that's a mental advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think the Browns learned some things against the Texans team in Week 16. The game really, to me, is kind of a wash from the offensive side of the ball because they did not have C.J. Stroud. And even on defense, Grenard went out pretty early in that game, if I remember right. So they really didn't have Anderson or Grenard for a good portion of that. Not sure how those guys are going to be able to play with those ankle injuries, but we're going to find out. But I think the Browns learned enough, and hopefully there was some evaluation going on during that game, even though it was a backup quarterback playing for them. To where they could kind of get a scouting report going and Jim Schwartz can put something together. Because like you said, Manny, C.J. Stroud has struggled against really good defenses. traditionally, and watching him at Ohio State, he was no different. But he does get the ball out really quickly. I don't know if he reads defenses at an extraordinary rate or what, but for some reason or another, he is able to get the ball out quickly. And that is really the only thing that worries me in this game. Of all the things that could happen, I worry that we will not be able to get to Stroud to rattle him, and he'll carve us up. But other than that, I feel confident. Vegas feels confident. Here we go, 11-6 Browns in the playoffs against the AFC South Texans. It's on 4:30 today. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Only game on with the playoffs. Obviously, there's some weather updates because again, we're playing inside, which is great. We're playing indoors, nice indoor stadium down there in Houston. Obviously, the Steelers game did get moved to Monday night at 4:30. So we're going to kind of see how if we do win today's game. I mean, the next opponent that we play would obviously be either the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs, depending on how that goes. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit in depth, but I really want to start off with the offensive side of the ball because we are going to need to exploit any opportunity that we have on offense versus that defense. Because again, if CJ Stroud is actually Himothy and CJ Stroud comes out and throws that ball all over this defense, we're going to need Joe Flacco to really, you know what I mean? We're going to really need him to throw that ball. And I don't know. I'm a little bit weary though because I know it's indoors and it's great. I'm a little bit weary because they all pretty much had a little bit of a week off. A lot of those starters. So it's like, can we pick it back up with intensity? The good news is we're not outside in the elements. We're not outside in the cold. So you're not asking your starters to kind of come out real cold and then figuratively speaking and then come out and play really cold in the cold weather. But this is a question for both of you again, just because I'm thinking about it. Like, what do you do in a situation when if the Houston Texans get the ball right out to start the gate and receive and then score a touchdown right away? Are you guys concerned about getting into a all-out kind of brawl, just high-scoring game? Is that kind of concern you?
With PJ Walker, absolutely. With what Joe Flacco has shown the last 5 games, I feel like we could find a way to go ahead and match up on that brawl. I feel a lot better with Flacco back there to be able to do it.
Yeah. If it's a shootout, I think we win.
Wow.
If it's a shootout, I think we win.
Wow.
The only way we wouldn't is if we turn the ball over a couple of times, which is possible. But if it's a shootout, I think we win.
Has Joe Flacco thrown a game for the Browns where he hasn't thrown an interception?
No, not yet.
I don't believe so.
Every game that we've played has been a pick.
Yeah, there's been at least one pick. And I think, I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a gunslinger. He trusts his arm heavily. That's something I like about him. He does have confidence throwing the ball in tight spaces. I hope you got to assume that it's like you can't really turn the ball over too much in the playoffs. I get the records out there, right? I mean, he has not been a one-and-done quarterback in the playoffs. He's always won his wild card games. He's what, 5-0, 4-0, 5-0 now?
Yep.
5-0 now. I mean,
would be 6-0 and ahead of Tom Brady with this.
And ahead of Tom Brady. And it's like, you have the most road playoff wins with 7. So you also be 7-0 with right there. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's very comfortable, very mature, very experienced. So I'm not worried about that so much. I would love to rattle CJ Stroud because he, again, at the end of the day, he's a rookie, guys. I mean, we have got to get into his head somehow. He can't be that. And this is the Houston Texans we're talking about. I'm not trying to be whatever and play down to your opponent, but just a couple of seasons ago, maybe even last season, we were laughing at the Texans, right? So we have to be able to find some of those weaknesses that we did a few weeks ago in Houston and kind of exploit them today.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to their pass rushers. Like Drew said, with Jerry Hughes being out, that's their third wheel. Their first and second wheel are a little bit lopsided as well. So it's really going to come down to their pass rushers. If Anderson and Grenard do have those ankle issues and Flacco has time like he did last game, we played them, he has the ability to carve them up, and he's proven it. Like, it's not even a hope for. if he has time in the pocket, he will carve them up. So,
Yeah.
Hopefully that pass rush is on a notch like 3 instead of 5. And we get a little bit extra time, and Flacco can go ahead and find some of these deeper routes and hit some big ones.
Yep.
Is Tank Dell still out for the Houston Texans?
Yes, he's not playing. He's out for the season.
And
Okay,
Woods is banged up.
Woods is banged up.
You got
as well.
Nico.
You got Nico Collins. We got to
Who's
give
still
some
a
attention
rookie.
to Nico Collins. So truthfully, we have to be able to give some attention to these guys. We have to. My number one concern is the confidence level of the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, looking on the defensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans on that, Will Anderson's going to be Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. I don't have any arguments against that. He's a stud. Out of Alabama, we kind of knew what we were getting ourselves into when he was drafted. But at the same time, I'm like, a rookie on defense making that much noise in the playoffs. I feel like Kevin Stefanski can neutralize him a little bit. I would imagine to give Joe Flacco some time to throw, like you said, Dave. If we can give him some time to throw out there, I think there's a Petre. What's his name? Petre, the safety.
Yeah.
For Houston as well, that was giving us some fits. It's like there's nobody really on that defense that really stands out to me and says, man, that guy. Like if we play Kansas City next round, where it's Chris Jones, definitely Chris Jones, TJ Watt, but TJ Watt's not going to be playing for Pittsburgh. But it's like or you're looking at the Ravens defense and you're saying the whole defense in general. But it's like Roquan Smith is starting with Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, and Jadeveon Clowney. Seeing a resurgence there. But I'm looking at the Houston Texans defense. I'm like, all right, they're pretty good. You know what I mean? I mean, you pretty much got there because of C.J. Stroud. We saw what you were without C.J. Stroud, and so I don't know. I just feel we have an opportunity to exploit that. Now, moving over to the Browns side of the ball, if you guys don't have any questions, I'm just filled with questions today because my mind is racing. The Browns defense, how do you feel about them going? Like, is it a little bit weary, obviously, with C.J. Stroud starting, or are you pretty confident because he's a rookie quarterback? And what helps you with that confidence? What are some of the things that Jim Schwartz has to do for a C.J. Stroud that you've seen this season? We can go with Jake first.
I'm feeling pretty confident in the defense. I feel like that they can get the job done. It's an experienced defense. You've got a few younger players, but overall they've got the experience. Some of these guys have been in the playoffs before. So I feel pretty confident. And, of course, Jim Schwartz has the experience as a defensive coordinator. So that doesn't really worry me as much. And not to mention, you guys were mentioning Houston's weapons, that some of them were gone. So if we can neutralize Nico Collins and just keep Dalton Schultz contained, which, Schultz doesn't worry me too much, but you never know. I feel like we can handle them unless they just kind of dismantle us like Matthew Stafford did, which I don't see really happening.
Yeah. For me, the big thing is having Denzel actually be active is so big, having those three out there. I think if CJ does get the ball out early and he's able to have success, it would have to be in man coverage. Just so happens we've got three studs out there who are absolute dogs in man coverage. So I love having Juan Thornhill back. He has that playoff experience. He has a Super Bowl ring last year, right, with the Chiefs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did he get a ring? Yeah. So he's been there before. The X factor for us is the person we have not seen for the last 5 to 6 weeks. Who is it? The one we need to absolutely dominate this game. We know we got our three studs in coverage that are going to be locking down these receivers.
I didn't know you were talking about our team.
I was going to say, Manny, you look down because you have his number on your chest. We absolutely need Myles Garrett to reinvite himself back into the dominance that is Myles Garrett. And we need Myles to go for 2+ sacks and some pressures, and everybody else will do their job and we'll be fine. So
Agreed.
as long as we can get to Stroud, we're okay.
We saw, and I kind of want to touch on Myles Garrett, and that's truly, Dave, why I'm wearing his jersey today, because I say it all the time. As honest Browns fans, we know Myles Garrett shows up in those big games. Like the prime time games, we know, like even the Jets game that was on Thursday Night Football, all eyes on Miles. It was a perfect time, got a sack, made some pressures. They were talking about him pressuring the quarterback. I really need him today. Maybe I'm not saying you don't need to have the high numbers, but I need him almost maybe, every single series, at least getting 2 or 3 pressures. Because we have
impact
to
the play.
pressure.
Yeah.
We have to impact the play. We need that from him in the playoffs. And it's unfortunate because every team knows when you're playing the Browns, it's Myles Garrett. Everything goes, you give so much attention to Myles Garrett. And so that will open up the other guys. And if Myles Garrett can get started early, move some finesse moves, use some power moves a little bit in the first quarter, tone it down for the second and third, let those other guys on the defensive line make some, create some noise. And then in the fourth quarter, turn it up if it's a really close game. But I think it's very important for Myles, like you said, Dave. We need him today.
The X factor.
We need that X factor. We cannot have him, disappear in this kind of game, get caught by double coverage and getting double teamed the whole entire time, not making. If the double team leads to everybody else getting sacks, fine. But create some holding calls. Even that. Use the pressure. Don't get discouraged in yourself if you're getting double teamed the whole entire time. That's great, Myles. Fine. But create some holding calls. Create some attention geared toward you. That's all I need. That's all I need out of him today. If he gets a couple sacks and things like that, that's fantastic. But Jay, can you speak to why you think that Myles has had this kind of lull lately? Is it something that we just are not used to? Are we getting a little bit kind of like the stats driven? Because Steelers fans have been throwing out stats left and right on Twitter for T.J. Watt and not having all this other stuff. So it's like, is it kind of dive into why you think he's been having such a quiet kind of like past couple of weeks?
A lot of it's because of the opposing offenses game planning specifically toward him, trying to stop him in particular because they know he can wreck the game single-handedly. So a lot of these opposing offenses are having to game plan against him, and the Texans are going to do that today. And, of course, don't forget the holding plays that were not called holds over and over and over and over in those past 5 to 6 games. In those 5 to 6 games, they've only called holding once, and that was in the Jets game.
I was shocked that he got that call. I was
shocked, too. I was shocked.
Yeah. I mean, you missed every other one. Why are you going to throw a flag on that one?
No kidding. But don't forget, Laramie Tunsil does lead the league in false starts. So you're going to see a lot of false starts on him, I feel like.
Is he playing? Because they showed he was not a participation in practice yesterday. So it didn't show out for him.
I just looked it up. It didn't show that he was inactive. So I'm taking that he is playing.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, this is going to be a good report card for Schwartz because I mean, if you give him the regular season, I think you'd have to give him an A. I think we all would probably give him an A, would we not? Jim Schwartz for a season,
100%.
But now, 100%. Now you're playing a team that you've already seen once, and it's the playoffs now. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Schwartz can still continue that success and really create a game plan and a scheme that will dominate this game and bring the Browns into the division round. So,
the good thing is, slightly before I touch on that point that you just said, Dave, because it's a huge point that would open up another topic of discussion. But maybe also who we really need to show up is Zadarius Smith and the other guys on that line. Now that I'm thinking about it, is because if they're going to be thrown on an island 1-on-1, and if I were Jim Schwartz, I'd go up to Zadarius Smith or Dalvin Tomlinson or Mo Hurst and say,
today's your day to eat.
Today is your day to eat. Listen, the playoffs is where you eat, man.
Yep, this is it.
The quicker you can open up that bag of tricks and power moves and make things happen early, they're going to start shifting over your ways in areas, Stalvin, Shelby. So it's like they're going to shift over your way, and that will leave Myles 101 to wreak havoc. So it's like if you can balance out that and get your edge rushers on the other side of Myles to not be so, everybody can just throw them on 1-on-1 and they're just rendered useless, I think that would help out Myles. But Dave, you touched on a great point. When we played Houston the last time, we took out all of our starters almost at the end of the third quarter. That means we had a whole 15 minutes, a whole quarter of until we had to put out the defense starters back out there because it was getting a little weird at the end of the game. But it was almost a whole quarter of not running your regular plays, not running your regular blitzes. Not you're trying your best, but you know what I mean. There's certain things you're especially not doing on offense of Kevin Stefanski because you don't want to run up the score. So that saves you the part of the playbook that you would use in a close game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah. Yep. Still in our pockets.
It's still in our pockets. So it's not like
the
Houston Texans really know us very well just because we played them once, right? I mean, we put out all the stops in the beginning, and it just got out of hand. But there were some close game plays, those trickster plays that you have in your back pocket that you can use potentially. And you could watch film early because we knew we were playing the Texans. I mean, we were watching the Texans game. I'm sure the whole Browns roster and coaching staff was watching that Texans game versus the Colts to try to figure out who we might play.
Absolutely.
But it's like,
no, I was.
Right. And so it's you're kind of looking at it and saying, hey, I know those one-on-one matchups versus this such and such guy, this guy. He had trouble with our certain second stringer or third stringer. Imagine if we throw Zadarius Smith in that situation in the fourth quarter, or imagine if we had Myles Garrett in that situation, such and such. So there's still a lot that the Houston Texans don't really know about the Browns because they didn't see us in a certain light. So if this is a close game, don't be surprised if there's, if we have the upper hand because they didn't see it. Now, granted, they didn't have C.J. Stroud, right? So they could say the same thing. They're like, hey, you didn't see it. You saw it was Case Keenum, and, C.J. Stroud's way better than Case Keenum. So what do you think about that point, Jake, that they don't have the whole picture?
Well, hard to say really because, I mean, anytime, like, you remember from the last year we made the playoffs and Pittsburgh just absolutely dominated us in the regular season game. And then we get to the playoffs and we dominate them. Not saying that that's going to happen again today, but coaching does play a factor in that, I feel like. And of course, we've got the potential coach of the year. Don't forget that the Texans are having a coach in his first ever playoff game. And our coach at least does have some playoff experience. So in that aspect, I feel like coaching is going to take the superior category in that field, if you will.
What do you, as a coach of this, so going along that line, as a coach, what did you say? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, you're talking about moving Myles inside because of the defense, the interior struggles of the Texans.
Yes, that's a
good point. Absolutely.
I think, now that that just opened up something, and I'll talk about that really quickly before I ask my question because, do you think that we haven't seen that Myles Garrett lined up in the linebacker role in a couple of weeks, right? We haven't seen that. Do you think that there was a potential that we kind of like tried it out, saw it work really well,
and put it in our pocket till playoffs?
Put it in our pocket for the playoffs?
Maybe.
It's like I haven't seen him. That's probably why his sack numbers went down, is because he's not rushing from the linebacker spot. He's rushing from, the edge a lot. He's not rushing from the interior, for the past couple of weeks. And listen, if it means that his stats take a dip, but then in the playoffs, we put him inside and we put him rushing from the linebacker spot and he can do that little crossover thing and he's getting in the backfield, creating pressure, I don't care. TJ Watt can have all the stats if he wants to. But if you're meaning he's going to create pressure like that and Jim Schwartz's going to get fancy like that and start using some of that again, fantastic. Great. Because, again, honestly, I would make some things happen and I would also try some things out because you got to try out some of those fancy plays, especially if you end up playing Baltimore in the divisional round or in the AFC Championship, because at that point you done played each other 3 times in a row. You already have the upper hand with them not seeing Joe Flacco, so you might as well kind of do that. What do you think about moving? What do you guys think about moving Myles across the line? Kind of address what Drew said.
I think he's. Oh, can you guys hear me?
No, just now. You cut out for a second, though, Jake.
Yep, I figured I did because you guys both froze. Dave, did you answer already?
I did not. You had already started speaking.
Oh, okay, my apologies because both of you froze. But I would like to see Garrett in some different packages. That would be kind of neat rather than just right on the defensive end slot. It would be interesting to see what the Texans would do to kind of contain that. Honestly, I would love to see Garrett, in some crazy stuff, like put him at fullback. Put the man at fullback for one play. Even
Dude,
if he
he's a
doesn't
freak.
run, just
Why not?
yeah, why not? I don't see him getting injured blocking on one play at fullback or something, just to see what would happen. But that's just me. But to Manny's point, I do like putting Garrett at linebacker, seeing what would happen. I don't know that the Texans would be able to stop it truly. But what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, hopefully they move him around a little bit and get creative. But really, with him, it's just about finding mismatches and putting Garrett on it. So you just want to create as many opportunities where he can win and be successful and impact the play as you can. So hopefully that does involve that, because we haven't seen that the last couple of weeks. They have definitely put that away, and that's a great point, man. He had that. Maybe they did see that it was going to work, and maybe they were holding it off for the right time. But
Right.
Oh,
go ahead, Dave. What are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, you know what? I forgot what the hell I was going to say, but yeah.
No, you're fine.
So
You're
that's
fine. You're fine. I wanted to ask a question before Drew commented. What do you say to some of those guys? Because I would almost, man, I wonder what percentage of these starters was even on that 2020. It was a short 3 years ago, but I don't know how many of the starters were even here on that 2020 playoff game. Obviously, you got Joe Patonio and Wyatt Teller, Kareem Hunt and Myles Garrett, but Denzel Ward. But anyway, what do you say as a coach right now to your team heading into the playoffs, battered and injured? What are some of the key things you're kind of touching on? It's just kind of like an encouraging thing, I guess. What's the mindset you want to have your team in, Dave? What do you think about that?
As critical as I've been of Kevin Stefanski, and a lot less lately than before, but as critical as I've been of him, one thing that I have noticed that I cannot dispute is that team loves playing together. There is a chemistry there that is real. It's not this fake ESPN stuff. It is an actual legitimate chemistry and culture that's in that building, and those guys love playing with each other, no matter the position. Normally the position groups will stick together, but everybody seems to get along on that team. So I don't know what my message would be more than probably just, hey, let's go ahead and look at the road that we took to get here. Let's reflect. And then we're going to go ahead and use that energy from that reflection of how amazing this story is, that you guys as professionals, next man up mentality, have been able to grit your way to the playoffs. And then let's use that energy of reflection and let's go ahead and put it into laser focus for today's game. And like Stefanski always says, let's just go 1-0 today. Let's go 1-0 today, and we'll worry about the rest later. But I don't know what you could say to them. Really, they really have a good chemistry. What do you think, Jake?
I agree with you 100%, man. I like every single bit of it. You basically just read my mind word for word.
Wow.
They're an extremely tight knit group, and I don't think they're playing for Nick Chubb. They're playing for Deshaun Watson. They're playing for the city of Cleveland. They're playing for all the doubters. I agree. I don't think there's much you can say to this football team, other than go out and show them. Go out and do something you've been doing all year long and show them. No matter what, you can still produce in this scenario with being injury riddled. I think Kevin Stefanski is coach of the year. Some Browns fans still, I understand it. They want Kevin Stefanski gone. I understand it from a human perspective, because sometimes you don't want to be wrong so much that you almost hope the worst so that you are wrong. You are correct.
Let me say this to those Stefanski people, Manny, because I used to be one of them. Okay. And,
Yeah.
I hate to cut you off. Is it okay if I do?
Please do. Please do.
All right. Listen, all the Stefanski people that are still saying you want Stefanski gone. Listen, I understand where that has come from in the past. Stefanski has grown as a play caller. Very rarely do we look at one of his play calls and think, what in the heck was that? And from what we've seen and what he's done with this team, galvanizing it after absolutely catastrophic injuries, 31 other teams in the NFL could have lost the quality of their roster that we did, and they would be 6-11 right now.
Right.
It is without a doubt. He schemes these players open. He's got this team galvanized. There should be zero people out there saying Stefanski should be gone. Zero. It is proven. What he did right here is just unbelievably beyond a doubt that there should be no more of that. Sorry, Manny.
No, that's completely fine. I think that's what I was basically saying. It's the only people that are left that are probably saying those kinds of things is, to your point, the people, man, the sun's really hitting me right now. But but the only people left that are saying those kinds of things are exactly what you were saying, Dave. Like, it's the people who just don't want to admit that they might have been wrong and that he might have grown. Right?
Yeah.
He might have grown. And I see it on Twitter and everything. And I think that, like, it's we've been through so much this season. It feels special. I mean, you have Jim Brown passing away, Betty White passing away. It's just like something around Cleveland is super, super special. And I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything. I mean, it would be insane if that happened. But speaking of Super Bowls, if we potentially get there, there's been this question that's been floating around on Twitter. And, you know, I'm a big person of getting hyped up in the hypotheticals. I really want an honest answer. And I want an honest answer, and I want to know how hard of a decision this would be, right? 10 being extremely hard. If Deshaun Watson is healthy and Joe Flacco is healthy, and you go into the Super Bowl, who do you play? Because a lot of people say, obviously, you're there with Joe Flacco because you got there with Joe Flacco. Some people say Deshaun Watson. And if you do choose Joe Flacco or one or the other, how hard of a decision is that? Let's go, Jake.
I think that depends on who you're playing. I really do. A lot of that is dependent on who you play. If you play someone with a very, very weak run game, you can put Deshaun in, and he can get just as many rushing yards as he could passing yards.
Yeah.
And just pass the ball 5 to 10 yards this play, that play. Now, if you're playing someone that has a really weak pass defense and their secondary can't really contain you, then you put Flacco out there and you sling it the whole game. To me, it depends on who you play in that type of decision.
Wow.
We're talking about in the Super Bowl right now?
The Super Bowl right now.
We're talking about if you're February 13th,
so
February 11th.
Joe Flacco has made a run and taken us to the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
How is that an easy decision, or is it?
It's super easy. Super easy. And here's what I do. Here's what I do, Manny. I bring Deshaun and I bring Joe Flacco into a room. Okay. Yeah. And I say, listen, Deshaun, you are the quarterback of this team. Come training camp next year, you are the starter for many reasons. Number one, financially, and number two is we haven't even seen you come back yet.
Yeah.
You are the quarterback. However, Joe, you are the quarterback for the Super Bowl. You have earned the right based off of what you've done in this run to finish it off. Deshaun, you understand, don't you? And Deshaun would shake his head yes. And I said, Joe, go get it, man. Go make your legacy. Go get it. We'll sign you next year to a couple-year deal to back up Deshaun, but let's go win the Super Bowl. Slap hands and see you later. There they go out the door,
right off
ready to do battle.
And this gives me goosebumps to even think about because I just would love to win the Super Bowl. But what I would also do, I'm on the camp of playing Joe Flacco, right? The last thing I want is to send my quarterback out there, who is coming off a throwing shoulder injury, but then says it's fine. And then the first game back is the Super Bowl. That's something that I probably wouldn't do.
Yeah.
What I would do, however, is somewhat like if Joe Flacco and we're happen to win it and we're in the type of winning formation kind of score in the fourth quarter, I would send Deshaun Watson out there to take the knee. Like that's what I would do. I mean, I'd have him suit up and I'd have him go out there and take the knee. Reason being is because we had so many quarterbacks, except Jeff Driscoll, right?
Yeah.
All of our quarterbacks won us a football game.
Yep.
So it's like, which is insane. And it's not like Deshaun Watson went like 3-3. Like he went 5-1.
Yeah.
You know, granted, it's all how you win at QB stats isn't a QB wins isn't a QB stat. Yeah, but if you go 0-16, then that kind of is a QB stat. So like you can make the assumption that your QB is very bad.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying it's a tougher question to think about sometimes. And I saw the hypothetical out there. That's why I was like, how hard of a decision really would it be? Because I think most people would say they would want to
like PJ YouTube just said about Flacco. I mean, if we're talking to them about the Super Bowl, Flacco has just made a 3-game run to get us there.
Yeah.
You know, Flacco has a Super Bowl ring already. He's already proven he does have the experience. I mean, I just don't think you risk it putting Deshaun Watson back cold, after however many weeks, dude, after Flacco's just absolutely ran through the playoffs like that.
That's a good point.
I mean, you got to get Flacco to start.
You know, it just occurred to me, Dave, to your point. I mean, with that Super Bowl experience, imagine if we would have named Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback during media week. Do you understand the media would tear into him in a way where asking him the question like,
that's all they'd be talking about.
You sure you should be the starting quarterback right now? Don't you feel any pressure with Joe Flacco? Like, I don't want him to face the mental hurdle and the physical hurdle of that shoulder.
Yeah.
Joe knows how to handle media week during a Super Bowl and still win it. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, I'll sit here. I know there's a lot of cameras. I got to wear the Nike Dry Fit Tech hoodie with the Super Bowl logo on it. Yep. I'm going to sit here, answer all the questions, have nice dinners all week, go out there and play football. If it's Deshaun Watson, that's the last thing I want him to have. You know what I mean? I don't want to have cameras in his face. I don't want whatever.
No. Put him away till training camp next year.
Put him away to training camp, and then let's get a full season.
That's a good point.
That's exactly how I personally feel about it. But what are going back to the Texans game? What are some of your predictions? Do you guys predict we kind of win? What kind of game does this look like overall for you guys? Jake, go ahead. You can go first.
Based on execution, if we execute, I think we win easy. But that depends on if we execute like we're capable of doing. That's the number one question in today's game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. Dave, what do you think?
I think Vegas probably has it right. You know, they say the home team gets 3. Browns are favored by 2. So, by a touchdown or so. I just hope it's a little bit less scoring variety than it is like a 38-31 game. But I'm a little bit more reserved on a shootout than you guys are. So, but, I mean, overall, I feel confident. I feel like the Browns should go out there and execute and beat this Texans team and earn the right to play another week.
I think that, and I don't know if you have any other things to add after I'm done, but before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to get a score prediction. I don't know if you wanted anything after that, Jake, but my kind of outlook for this game is really, at the end of this game, I don't know what the score will be, truly. I mean, I can come up with a score prediction, but I think my outlook for this is we're going to come out of this game and say, hey, the Texans are a really good football team for the future. They just ran into a more experienced Browns team.
Yeah, they're a year away probably. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think they had a great season. They're division champs. They battled through some injuries as well with CJ Stroud and this concussion. And Tank Dell going down because Tank Dell was having a great season. You got guys out there, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, and Devin Singletary is running back. They have a decent football team. They just ran into a really good defense and an experienced quarterback and head coach, and that's, I think, will be the storyline. Yeah. Not that they're going to lose
the best defense and probably the coach of the year, Manny. So that's what you ran into.
Exactly. You know? Defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, one of the people arguing the Baltimore Ravens are the best defense. Top 3 defense.
We've given up the least amount of yards per game. So
exactly. So no, what's not arguing is top 3 defense, and that's what you're going to face today at 4:30, and in about 30, a little over 30 minutes right now. So I think what we're talking about is it's going to be probably a closer game. We're going to look at the Texans and be like, oh yeah, C.J. Stroud can really throw that ball, but with the pressure, he couldn't do much. He couldn't do much.
I hope that's what the story is. Yep.
Absolutely. So
what's your score prediction, Manny?
Yeah, we can go score prediction. My score prediction today is going to be I'm looking at a 24 to I'd say maybe 24-13 final. Something that's very they might get out to a score and might make us sweat a little bit, but I think by the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, I think we're going to know we won. It's going to be that kind of game, right? They might be throwing the ball deep to try to get a touchdown to kick an onside kick, but it's going to be one of those games where it's like we kind of know we won. And so the 24-13 is my final.
Sure.
Yep. Good.
What do you got, Jake?
Give me 28-20. I don't think we kick a lot of field goals in this game. We're going to try to play this game without having to rely on our kicker, and it'll be like a 28-17 type score late in the fourth. Mm-hmm. And Houston will get a field goal to try and make it a one-score game, but I don't think that they put anything else up after that. So give me 28-20 Cleveland.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to go 24-17 Browns. I think Flacco goes for between 250 and 300 and 2 touchdowns at least. I think Jerome Ford has a solid game. I really think that David Njoku, because you got to remember what did Amari Cooper do to the Texans last time we played him? Does anybody remember?
Oh my gosh,
265.
Set the Browns single game record.
Wow.
So I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that they're not going to try and let that happen again. So I think David Njoku having a big game, 24-17. I think Riley Patterson gets a late game field goal. Hopefully it's a 30-yarder and we don't have to worry about it. But I feel pretty good about it, guys. Let's go Browns.
Let's go Browns. Let's go Browns. And
thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We hope that the Browns come away with the dub. We'll see you on our next show, our next recap. We'll let you guys know what time and date that is, and hopefully, we're talking about our next game versus either the Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens. So, as always, go Browns, baby!
Go Browns!
Go Browns!